Evening and a happy 58 years of independence to you, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on BizWeek. My name is Justin Malenka. So much to get into as we kickstart off a brand new week, and hoping that your day started out very well as we are commemorating this very day, 58 years of independence here in Zambia. We are going to be getting into a very interesting conversation, but remember, do keep the conversation going via our Diamond TV Zambia Facebook page tonight, where we're streaming live. Be sure to go there and look for the BizWeek stream. Utilize the Airtel TV app as well, where you can be able to watch Diamond TV from there and download the Airtel TV app from your Google Play Store and your App Store. Good evening once again. We speak all things the increment of property transfer tax in Zambia in the proposed 2023 budget. Now, to give you a brief background here, property transfer tax is tax charged on transactions in which property is sold. This tax is a percentage of the realizable value from the property transaction. The rate of property transfer tax is at 5% according to the Zambia Revenue Authority. It is always advised that you check prevailing rates on a yearly basis, as this may change from time to time as guided by changes from the governing ministry. This evening, we are focusing specifically on that, and our guest, Dr. So Kiwempindi, and he is the Chief Executive Officer from Horizon Properties Limited. Good evening and welcome to BizWeek.
Good evening, Justice. Good evening, viewers, and happy independence.
Thank you, and happy independence to you. Let's get into our conversation here. Very interesting one, because I understand that many Zambians out there, especially the ones that are in the real estate business, do not understand what exactly this is. And this is why we're here to specifically speak on that. And I'd like to begin my conversation firstly with what is property transfer tax and what is the meaning of property?
Thank you very much. Property transfer tax is the tax charged by the government at the time of transferring property rights from one person to another or from one company to another. And it is charged at the amount realized at the transaction or the market price. Whichever is higher, the Director General of Revenue Authority has the right to make a decision which to take.
And when we talk about property transfer tax, obviously the major question here is who pays property transfer tax in Zambia?
First of most, I want to let you know that in terms of property, we can look at land and its improvements on the land. We look at the shares are also property, shares in the company. If you are selling shares, for your transfer shares, is like sale of shares, you have to pay a property transfer tax. We have also intellectual property, where you have it include trademarks, patents, industrial designs. If you have to sell that you are selling property, so you pay property transfer tax. You also have mining rights and rights in mining. So all those, if you are transferring those rights from one company to another, from one individual to another, that is property transfer tax is chargeable at that amount which is realized in the transaction. By law, the one who pays tax is the seller. I'm going to property because the vendor or vendor, whichever you pronounce it. But over time, it's becoming like a common practice where the sellers or the vendors, they put the burden on the purchaser.
And obviously there are repercussions that come through. You have mentioned that by law, one needs to be able to pay the property transfer tax. What are some of the repercussions over the years that you've had experience in real estate? What are some of the repercussions that come through if you do not pay this property transfer tax? Because we understand there is a law in Zambia pertaining to property transfer tax.
Yes, indeed. Property transfer tax is not a new tax. It has been existing since in 1984. It was existing under Cap 12 of 1984. So the tax law has been there. If you don't pay tax, the consequences. The consequences. It's a criminal. And there are serious consequences if you don't pay tax. Yeah, and with regard to property, it's very difficult to transfer property without paying tax. Actually, it's a requirement. You can't transfer. You can't transfer rights in land, or you can't transfer mineral rights or intellectual property rights from one person to another without paying tax.
What would you say is the most complex thing about property transfer tax? Because you have mentioned something very interesting here in the case of the vendor, and how the burden is put onto the one that is acquiring or purchasing this particular property, which is in form of land. What do you say would be the main problem here? Do you think that it's lack of knowledge? Would you say that it's just individuals deliberately doing this?
Say the property transfer tax administration, and I would say specifically like the property sector. This is a sector, like the property sector, it has been it's not properly regulated, and also the way the taxes has been administered by the Zambia Revenue Authority. It creates some kind of suspicion between the authority and the public, that they're being meant to pay tax on money not realized. Because as you heard the definition, you pay tax on what you have realized, or the market price. What has been happening is that the authority apparently does not have valuers, in-house valuers, valuation surveyors. They don't have. They depend on the government valuation department, and most of the time they are not up to date with the happenings in the property sector, and therefore, depending on them, it's either you can undervalue or overvalue. What's happening? The ZRA will make you to pay, for example, market price, but you have not realized that money. The valuation is valuation, but the selling is the market which determines, and therefore, as you have heard, whatever is higher is what they take. Now you are making me to pay on the amount I haven't realized. Sometimes even if there's evidence that money has been transferred from one bank to another bank, they're adamant. So in other words, the taxpayers feel as if they're victimized. So that's part of the administration. That is the challenge which is there at the moment, because depending on values of property which are not updated, is very unfortunate.
You have experience in the real estate business, and obviously from your experience, you've probably come up with ways that could, determine how these challenges can be solved. What resolutions do you think need to be implemented here, especially seeing that you've mentioned something that has generally affected many of the Zambian people, especially when you talk about property transfer tax?
Yes, what in my view, I've had a lot of contentious submissions to Zambia Revenue Authority regarding property transfer taxation on a taxing amount which has not been received. But the discretion of Director General, I think in that way they should be taxing Zambians on what they've actually realized. Because if there's this kind of misunderstanding, and then that's what brings now under declaration. Yes. Declaration.
And what other observations have you had? Have you had any observations in terms of the trends in Zambia with respect to the property transfer tax rate, especially during your experience over the years in the real estate business? I know that to many it might seem complex, but what have you observed in terms of the trends, whether positive or negative?
Over the years, I've noticed that this particular tax, it has been, I think, a point of vulnerability with regard to its application and implementation, because and there's been a lot of instability in the way the rates have been changing. Allow me to give you an example. In 1984, the tax was 2.5%. In 1993, it was 9.3%. In 2008, for 3%. So all this is creating instability. when it was reduced in 2008 to 3%, there is empirical research that the collections went up. Declared amount went up in the ZI debt. Then it was increased in 2011 to 5%. Yes. So this is so they have increased from 3% to 5%. In 2014, they increased to 10%, and at this time, it was the highest in the whole world. In the region. So, within our sector, we try to do the explanation and say this is injured investment. So in 2016, it was reduced to 5%.
What would you say is the cause of how volatile the transfer tax rate is, the property transfer tax rate? What would you say is the reason as to why it has been volatile like this over the years?
I think this is a sector. Most of the sector here is not properly regulated. There's no regulatory framework within which the consultations can be made conclusively in a well-meaning way, so that the interested parties are able to submit to make submissions that can improve this tax administration and collection. So as you have seen now in the proposed 2023 budget, it has been increased to 7.5%. Though that increment is within in the region and the world within the range, but when you consider economy by economy, I think the sector is still vulnerable.
How does the volatility of the property transfer tax rate affect many in the real estate business?
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, the effects of increment. You expect less investment, because if you add a percentage on the cost of business, cost of doing business, it means that the cost of business is going up. That is not an incentive. Secondly, when you increase property transfer tax, it's most likely now the parties will try to transact informally by under declaration, and in that way you don't collect much, because if the taxpayers perceive that this tax is high, they may not really register. But on the practitioners, if I'm selling, and if I go to this registered estate agent who is established, and he will not compromise on the legalities, it's either I reduce his pay commission, or if they don't accept, I move on.
What would you say determines the property transfer tax rate? I understand that there has been a proposal from the 2023 national budget, which was presented by the Minister of Finance, and now it's going to be increased to 7.5%. What would you say determines the property transfer tax rate? Now, so 5%, we're seeing an increase now. What is the basis? What is the synopsis behind it being increased from 5% to 7.5%?
I'm yet to understand the basis of increment, because I've not heard anywhere where there was consultation this increment, and therefore I'm very unable to respond to that. The basis I don't know, but I think to my understanding, when they checked around the region, they want to look maybe the average of the region and say, no, let's increase, because it's an issue of now raising revenue.
Would you say that we understand that over the years the value of land in the real estate business does grow as the years go by, but would you say this in any way affects the property transfer tax rate?
I know my understanding is that the lower the taxes, the higher the revenue, because compliance is more effective. Lower taxes, and I think what we should focus on is the production, not taxation. Because taxation, there's no country which develop through taxation. They only develop through production. Yes.
And now we're seeing, prior to what has been proposed here from the 2023 national budget, we're seeing the property transfer tax rate being increased from 5 to 7.5%. Would you say that it was better off at 5%, or maybe should have even reduced?
I think 5% was very ideal, because there's research.
Well, before, I think before it had dropped to slightly below 5%.
It has been very stable from I think 2016, 2017 up to date, 5%. Now there's empirical evidence that lower power transfer tax generates a rate of revenue than the opposite, because of the increase in under-declaration tend to increase, and also the negativity towards the increment.
What would you say is the ideal then property transfer tax rate? You have mentioned 5%, but we did see at some point it did go below that, and you have mentioned how this generally does create a positive for both sides, the individual and the individual involved in the real estate business and the Zambia Revenue Authority.
Yes. Okay. Without talking from nowhere, there's evidence to show that at 5%, from 3%, when the tax was at 3%, the collections went up, and also 5%, the collection has been going up, meaning that the correlation between the rate and the collections.
And now we're looking at this happening. The proposed increase here to 7.5%. What do you think will happen to the real estate industry, the real estate business, if this increase is put into effect? As
I mentioned, what's likely to happen is that most likely, first of all, individuals, because most of the transactions are conducted by individuals, they may go under declaration, under declare the cost of transactions. On the practitioners, we are likely to see less business coming in the formal setups. Individuals would like to transact on their own. Thirdly, the revenue will decrease, because you rather agree at a lower commission so the transaction goes on than no business.
Does the property transfer tax rate affect the cost of property when you talk about land?
Because the increment is a cost. A tax is a cost to the transaction. So if you're increasing the cost of doing that business, so it's the cost of doing business goes up. And also, when you're investing, you are a developer, you want to buy property, and as I said, there's a trend, there's a tendency of now sellers pushing indirectly the cost of the tax to the purchaser. So what happens is that they will push the cost to you, the purchaser, so that they remain in their position.
Well, that's unfortunate, obviously, but let's do a comparison here when we talk about the property transfer tax rates in other regions around the world and that of Zambia. What would you say is the property transfer tax rate is? Would you say it's equal to what it is here in Zambia, it being at 5%? Now we're looking at an increase to 7.5%, or maybe it should actually go much, much lower than what it currently is?
Okay, let me give you a brief to our neighbors here. In Botswana, the property transfer tax is between 2 to 5%. In Malawi, 3%. In Namibia, it's from 1 to 8%. South Africa is from 0% to 8%. But you see, you cannot. It's more to percent rates than the state of the economy or state of that particular sector in how it's performing in that country, and also the system of tax collections. There is a gap between the transaction and the transaction, the valuation, and the tax administration. So there's a disconnection. So the collection becomes a bit cumbersome, and the effectiveness of the rate becomes cumbersome. So I may be collecting 3%, but I'm collecting effectively. You are trying to collect 7.5%, but you can't collect effectively.
What lessons can Zambia learn from the property transfer tax rates that you have mentioned here? What can Zambia learn from our neighboring countries, seeing that the property transfer tax rate there is below 5%? What things can we look at implementing that can also work for Zambia, that is working for our neighboring countries?
I think what we look at as a country and in our economy is how do we bring in investment? What is attractive? Already we have the attractiveness of the tenure of 99 year lease. That's very attractive. But now when it comes to the transactions, what is going to competitively? How do we attract investment, local and foreign, in comparison with our neighbors? So that's we have to focus on that.
All right,
and also to allow also the local investors to thrive.
Well, let's engage Henry Musonda. Good evening to you, Henry, and welcome to BizWeek. What is your contribution to our topic here, the increment of property transfer tax in Zambia in the proposed 2023 budget?
The transfer tax in Zambia proposed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Henry. So kindly reduce the volume on your television set.
Increase the property transfer tax.
Oh, we seem to have lost Henry there. Be sure to reduce the volume on your TV so that you are able to hear me clearly from your mobile phone and not from your TV, because then we'll be getting feedback from there. But conversation here, especially around what we're looking at here, the increment of the property transfer tax rate, in Zambia, it's one that you have mentioned just might deteriorate the state of the real estate industry. But has there been proposals from different individuals that are in the real estate business, proposals to the government to have dialogue on how this issue can be resolved effectively, and this could be done in a long-term format?
Okay, at the time when in 2014, when the tax was raised to 10%, which was the highest in the world at that time, we made some submissions that they were to the government for the need to reduce the tax. It was reduced, but at this time around, I've not had any submissions from institutions like Zambia Agents, Zambia Institute of Agents, Zambia Institute of Surveyors. I've not had submissions, but I think it's very important and cardinal that we make submissions so that this issue can be looked at.
Well, I mean, this will be put into effect, and it has been proposed in the 2023 national budget by the Minister of Finance, and we're getting closer into the next year. Are you looking at doing this in between now and before 2023 comes through?
It's a possibility or not a possibility, because the time frame and the times is not with us, and we may end up sticking to the same tax. Yes.
Well, I know for a fact that there's a lot that needs to be considered here. And when we talk about the Zambia Revenue Authority, do you think the Zambia Revenue Authority will be able to collect more PIT in the financial year of the 2023 because of this increment?
I may not speak for them, but they still have the same challenges between the taxpayer and themselves, because of the misunderstanding on the values of property, because their data is from Government Valuation Department, which data is not up to date, is not in line with the current market situation. So we'll keep on now. They keep on stressing each other, the authority and the taxpayers.
Well, you're watching BizWeek, and our chat here is on the increment of property, the increment of the property transfer tax in Zambia in the proposed 2023 national budget. And our guest, Dr. So Kiwempindi, the Chief Executive Officer from Horizon Properties Limited. This is what we're looking at. We take a short break, and BizWeek continues after this.
Horizon Properties, the real property merchants, offers proficient, time-tested real estate services to all property buyers and sellers. Are you selling or letting? Looking to buy or lease property? We sell and let residential, commercial, and industrial properties, farms, and small holdings throughout the country. Our pride is in offering tailor-made services to meet the unique needs of each client, coupled with innovative, effective marketing tactics for each property. Before you buy a plot or farmland, check if Horizon Properties doesn't have it at a cheaper price. Come and experience the proficiency that makes Horizon Properties stand out from the rest. Tried and trusted to deliver to its customers' expectations. We have offices in the following locations: Woodlands Head Office, in Kablonga, on the alley behind the Saka Hotel. Horizon Properties, the real property merchants.
There lies a beast in us that we need to unleash. And on the 5th of November 2022, we unleash the beast in you. This is a youth bootcamp happening at Mulungushi International Conference Center, Monsieur Chunya Conference Hall, from 8:30 hours to 13 hours. Keynote speakers include Diamond Media Chief Visionary Officer Costa Mwansa, and public speaking, branding trainer, and corporate communications entrepreneur Patience Chisangamaya. Panelist guest speakers include H&M Group founder and CEO Helen Mwamba, Agro Queen CEO Elizabeth Sianga, and EMARC founder Emmanuel Mwanza. Tickets are going at 250 kwacha at the venue entrance, while pre-sale tickets are going at 200 kwacha. These tickets can be purchased from the Diamond TV offices in Rhodes Park, Lusaka. For tickets, call 0966 902 003 or 0978 620 565. So see you at Mulungushi Conference Center on the 5th of November 2022 to unleash the beast in you.
Diamond Media Technical Business Solutions. This is a specially designed product created to create solutions for your events and office demands. Our state-of-the-art equipment includes the latest camera technology, wireless video transmitters, and switches. This makes it possible for us to broadcast or film your event with the least possible cable hardware. We have the capacity to stream and broadcast content on both yours and our platforms anywhere using our latest satellite technology and easy to set up streaming devices. This makes it possible for us to complete our setup within 30 minutes and stream with the highest internet connectivity possible in Zambia. Your conference, webinar, award ceremony, gala dinner, boxing bout, or similar event will be covered effectively. Our outside broadcast vans that are fully equipped with power backup solutions and standby internet connection. With the ever-increasing demand for fast internet connectivity, we make our satellite equipment available for you to hire. The state-of-the-art and easy-to-use satellite technology will be set up at your premises, and you will enjoy uninterrupted internet supply straight from our trusted service provider.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned in to tonight's edition of BizWeek. And we continue with the conversation here, the increment of the property transfer tax rate as addressed and mentioned from the 2023 national budget. The finance minister did present the budget not so long ago, and we focus still on this. And our guest here, Dr. So Kiwempindi, the Chief Executive Officer from Horizon Properties Limited, is joining us. We continue now. And I'd like us to drive our attention firstly towards the Zambia Revenue Authority. And we have recognized here that there are glitches, especially when we talk about the property transfer tax rate here in Zambia, property transfer tax generally. There are things that are affecting how, some of these things should be implemented. But how would you say the Zambia Revenue Authority is doing in terms of addressing these matters that are affecting the property transfer tax?
I would suggest that I think the authority should I don't know why the reason why they don't have valuation surveyors in their institution, because that being the case, it also helps them to look at the valuations submitted by applicants, and because one valuation which is prepared properly will not differ from the valuation, so they are able to assess internally that just depend on the government evaluation department. The other important issue, which is we as practitioners were very uncomfortable to make a taxpayer pay on an amount that's not received. It means you are taking away a taxpayer's money.
How devastating can the repercussions be in this case, from what you have just spoken on?
What I'm trying to say that, as you've seen the definition, it's either the realizable amount or the market price, whichever is higher. I don't see the rationale why I should pay on a higher price, which I haven't received. So I think that one is very irregular and very punitive to the taxpayers. Let me pay what I've received. Let me pay tax on what I've received. Then that's fine. It's fair. It's equitable. Yes.
And I'd like us to drive, just before we get to conclude, I'd like us to drive towards Horizon Properties and, what key roles Horizon Properties Limited is playing, especially in raising awareness on the property transfer tax. And we understand that there are many who are involved in the real estate business, but do they understand what this is and how it can affect, how they are conducting business in this industry?
As Horizon Properties, what we would like to, our fellow practitioners to educate, like we do, to educate their customers, their would-be customers, the understanding of the property transfer tax and the need to comply, and in this case, to understand what's the meaning, why are you paying. Government runs on revenue, tax collections, but most purchasers would want to say, no, it's my property. Why should I pay tax?
Would you say that this is another way that government is just trying to increase on revenue generation, increase on how much they are collecting through this kind of tax?
As I've said, this subsector is very vulnerable. I've highlighted how it has been changing up and down. It's a vulnerable kind of a subsector where, because of the regulatory institutions, they are either there or they're weak. So they're unable to make a meaningful submission to government.
Well, as we get to conclude, we'd like to get your last comment regarding property transfer tax and its administration. Now we're looking at it being increased and this being put into effect as of 2023 to 7.5%. What are your last comments regarding our topic here?
The compliance would depend on how flexible and realistic Zambia Revenue Authority will apply and administer this tax collection equitably.
Well, Dr. So Kiwempindi, Chief Executive Officer from Horizon Properties Limited, thank you so much for joining us tonight on BizWeek.
It's my pleasure to be here and to disseminate information which is very important to the public.
Well, we're looking forward to our next engagement with you and our next engagement with you as well, the viewer. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on BizWeek, and we're focusing on the increment of the property transfer tax rate here in Zambia, and this being done through the 2023 national budget. This has been proposed. What say you? Keep the conversation going regardless via our Diamond TV Zambia Facebook page. Alternatively, download the Airtel TV app where we are streaming live tonight, and you can download it from your Google Play Store and your App Store. My name is Justin Malenga. Thank you so much for watching, and we continue to wish you a happy 58 years of independence. Coming up in a little bit, our Diamond News Desk at 8, so be sure to tune in at that time. Good night.